Howdy guys, and welcome to night number 4's recap of the overnight feeds for Big Brother season 25. And welcome to Cliff Notes, broadcasting from Cancun, Mexico. Yeah, down here to celebrate my nephew getting married. Congratulations to my nephew, his incredible bride, all the best wishes going forward. It's been a wedding, been a lot of fun down here. Hadn't kept me from watching the feeds, and we certainly had feeds to talk about yesterday and last night, so let's get right into it. That's a perfect place, but let's get right into the feeds. First of all, let's talk about yesterday. We did have a veto competition take place. The first veto competition of the year is always exciting. We had a little more important to some people than others, although there's a few people that are worried, and we'll talk about that. Kirsten and Felicia are on the block. Kirsten definitely needs to win this thing. She's become the house target. If she doesn't win it, I'm not sure anyone else necessarily would pull her off the block, and I think she would probably lose just about any vote that takes place. Now, Thursday's a long way away, but for right now, this seems like a must-win. The most important veto competition so far this year took place yesterday. Yes, indeed. So we did the veto competition. Kirsten and Felicia are on the block. Now, having said that she's a house target, we still also had a little bit of paranoia kicking in yesterday, as it tends to happen. Some paranoia with the other house guests, some concerns that there could be a backdoor plan afoot. So we're going to talk about that in just a little bit. But again, Kirsten really needs to win this thing to stay in the house. Did she? Oh, we're going to find out. We had Riley as HOH, gets to play in the veto competition automatically. We also had Felicia and Kirsten as the nominees, getting to play automatically. The three other people picked to play in the veto competition were Blue and Cameron and Hassam. And it sounds like their names were all picked as opposed to one of the first three getting house guest choice. Don't know that for absolute certainty, but I think their names were just drawn. So those are the 6 players we had competing in the competition. Along with the 6 people competing, Riley also was tasked with selecting a host for this thing, and she picked Sari. Now, Sari, normally whoever's host, it isn't that big a deal. It's just something that's fun to do. In this case, it became a little bit of an issue because of that paranoia I mentioned. So again, we're going to cover that here in just a moment. So the feeds went down about 1 o'clock or so, Big Brother time, Pacific Coast time. They came back on around 4 o'clock. So we had about 3 hours while they were shut down. Once the feeds did return, we learned that the competition involved some sort of race, but in addition to the race, spraying water of some sort, stacking puzzle pieces. So a little bit of a combination of a physical competition plus some intellectual, some mental skills as well. I like to see the mix of those taking place. So we know a little bit about what the comp was, but obviously we didn't get to see it play out. That'll be on one of the episodes next week. But the important thing, the winner of the season's first veto competition, the most important one so far this year, was Hassam. Yes, Hassam has won it. Not good news for Kirsten at all. I just don't know that she's going to be sticking around this house. Although, as I said, we do have a few days before the eviction ceremony takes place. Well, I had birds chirping a couple of days ago. Now I think I got me a tractor behind me. Oh well, I expect the unexpected, right? Hey guy, how you doing? It's Frenchie on the tractor. What are you doing down here? All right, we'll just power through anyway. So, Hassam won the veto competition. Not great news for Kirsten at all. Now let's talk a little bit about the impact or the repercussions of Hassam winning this thing. He had said yesterday that he wanted to win veto so he could protect Felicia. Remember, he's a geriatric doctor. He really didn't want to see the oldest person in the house being targeted first this year, like it happens in so many years. And I'm all on board with that sentiment, Hassam, and Bowie had commented the same thing, that she didn't want it to happen. So it seemed like Hassam really wanted to play so he could win this veto and potentially pull Felicia off the block. But before the competition took place yesterday, he had said that if he did win veto, he would not use it. And after the competition was over, I think it was Corey that he said, yeah, I'm not going to use it. And I think Corey then reported that back to Riley. But it does not seem like Hassam is going to use this veto, which means we're going to have Felicia and Kirsten on the block come Thursday. Which, to me, is even more confirmation that he, along with everyone else, believes that Felicia is absolutely safe this week, that she will not get voted out of the house. There he is again. And I believe it. I don't think Felicia is going anywhere at all. She's as safe as a pawn can be, which, we know what that means. But I think she is good. Now, Cirie had talked to him and mentioned that that if he did use the veto, that could be seen as a giant dig at Riley and her HOH, and that it would also potentially expose Hissam's loyalty maybe to Felicia and the Bye Bye Bees alliance. And so maybe it's just better, if they're really comfortable that Felicia is safe, to not use it. Now, Cirie has ulterior motives, because there was, again, a little bit of concern that she could be the target of a backdoor plan. So, of course, Cirie doesn't want the veto used. She wants to keep it exactly the way it is. I think Felicia understands it. I think she's comfortable with where she is. Yeah, I think that's what we're going to find out. We'll find out on Monday, when we're going to have the eviction of the veto ceremony. But talking about Cirie, remember I mentioned paranoia a little bit earlier. This is what I'm talking about. Apparently, Izzy told a couple of people during the day, or early in the day, that Riley might have chosen Cirie as host of the competition simply in order to butter Cirie up before making her a backdoor target. Yeah, make her feel comfortable and then make her a backdoor target after all. I don't think that was actually the plan. I haven't really seen any conversations that suggest that was being planned. But I don't know if Izzy said that as just an offhanded, hey, what if kind of comment, or if she actually had an ulterior motive of some sort in saying that and stirring up some concern, some paranoia. I think it may have just been a what if, but I don't think it's a real plan. But it doesn't matter. Once it's thrown out there in that house, the paranoia kicks in. So now Cirie is worried, is convinced that they're trying to backdoor her. So again, she does not want the veto used. Now, why did Izzy say that? Why did she think she's Riley's buttering up Izzy? There's a couple of things, buttering up Cirie. There's a couple of things. One thing, apparently Riley had said bye-bye bestie to Kirsten at some point in the last couple of days. And then she said that same phrase to Cirie as Cirie was walking out the door. So Cirie is, Izzy thinks that Cirie is a target because of that. She also is worried. She knows there's a lot of Corey hate on Cirie's side of the alliances. And Izzy is worried that Corey, being the big Survivor fan that he is over on the other side, really pushing an agenda to get Cirie out. And so Corey may be behind some kind of backdoor plan as well. So a lot of supposition and assumptions that don't really amount to hill of beans. But again, I say that once it's out there, people start getting worried. Things can just snowball in that house. So we do have them a little bit worried about that, to the point that Cirie and Felicia actually talked to Riley a little bit later. Jared, later in the evening, I think it was after the veto competition, late last night, he eventually told Cirie, said, look, it's just Izzy being Izzy. He said, you got to kind of shut her down. You got to talk to her, because she's just throwing this stuff out there. It's just Izzy being Izzy. I don't think there's any truth to it whatsoever, Mom. And they got to be careful. I want to see how long this secret can stay hidden. Two people, a secret's not real safe. The third person in, like Izzy especially, really couldn't be safe. But Jared tells his mom, says, it's just Izzy being Izzy. There's no truth to it. But Izzy does need to be careful going forward, because as she's seeing right here, the slightest comment can get twisted around. People can just focus on that comment. Next thing you know, there's all kinds of stuff happening in the house. So she needs to be careful with everything that she says. And Izzy has said a lot. Izzy is playing quite the game. I got to say, Izzy to some degree reminds me of Brittany from last season, where once you feel like maybe that you got a little control and everything, you're just going all over the house having a lot of conversations. I see that happening with Izzy right now. She needs to, take a breath every once in a while. Enjoy the backyard, which they do have now after the competition is over. Now, Izzy feels like she has a very tight trio with Jared and Cirie. And she talked about how powerful this secret is that she has. Oh, she loves being the only one that knows about Jared and Cirie. She feels like she's a very tight connection with them. She talked about how great it is going to Final 3 with the two of them. Why? Why would you want to go to Final 3 with a mother and son? That doesn't seem like the best plan ever, but she did mention that, and I do think she's tight. I kind of assumed and thought that Cirie and Felicia were the tightest two, and they still have a great connection, but it does seem like Izzy's right there with Cirie as well. Maybe not quite as tight as she thinks long term, but at least for now. Yeah, it's a pretty tight trio, quadro, whatever you want to call it. All right, but I mentioned Cirie really took that comment seriously that Izzy had thrown out there. So Cirie and Felicia ran with that comment. They eventually talked to Riley to see if there was any truth to what Izzy had thrown out there. Cirie talked to Riley a little bit about her concern about having two women on the block. And the fact that would lead to a woman going home. Next thing you know, the guys have an advantage and they'll just run roughshod over the women itself. I don't know if Cirie really is worried about that. If she's pushing to maybe get Corey backdoored instead of herself, if there is a backdoor to happen. Riley, I don't think is going to put up Corey, even if there was something going on. But I don't know if Cirie was talking about that, or it was just a way to get Riley talking and to feel. I think Cirie has figured out that you start sharing information with Riley and she'll open her mouth and give out all kinds of information. And give out information she did. They were sitting in the living room having this conversation, and I actually think it was Felicia, not Cirie, if I remember, that said, all right, Riley, who are you most closely aligned with? Who are you working with here? And Riley told him. She told him everything. She talked about who she was tight with. She gave out all these names, and they were true. She's being truthful. And then she told Felicia and Cirie, said, but I really trust you guys too. In other words, yeah, I got these 7 other people I'm working with, but you too, I'd love to work with you as well. I mean, that was kind of the implication. Riley gives out a lot of information. Now, the other thing, in addition to talking about everyone that she's tight with, she did mention that if the veto had been won by Kirsten, if she had to do a renom, it would be Luke. That's who she would go after if she couldn't go after Kirsten, and I think that's true. And I think that Cirie and Felicia felt better that Riley actually had a target to throw out there if it hadn't worked out. So I think they're feeling a little bit better about that. Now, here's the kicker. Cirie, and I think Felicia as well, they already knew about this 8-person alliance because Jared had told them earlier in the day what was going down. So they already knew about it. And Cirie at one point made the comment, said, well, she trusts you and I so much, and yet she still has 7 other people she's working with. If she trusts us so much, how come we aren't part of that 8-person alliance? So, yeah, I think they're feeling better that they're in the backdoor plan in place, but certainly not feeling comfortable about their position in the game, knowing that this 8-person alliance exists on the other side. So that is something that they're going to be keeping in mind going forward. Now, what else do we have going on? Worried about that 8-person alliance. Cirie has actually suggested to Hissam that they need to get Luke onto their side. I think Jared at one point had said, look, they don't have Red, they don't have Luke. We may be able to do something with them. So Cirie has said, hey, Hissam, go try to grab Luke, drag him over to our side, just so we can get a vote to even up the numbers themselves. Izzy at the same time is trying to flip Corey. They don't like Corey, they don't trust Corey, but she's certainly happy to bring him on board as an extra vote. So Izzy spent some time talking to Corey, trying to get him on board. Red, who so far has seemed to really not be declaring alliances, kind of, I guess, made the decision, stepped across the line in the sand yesterday, because Red suggested to Hissam yesterday that his core group would potentially be Hissam, Red, Cirie, and Izzy. That's who Red's feeling closest to. Red also talked to Cirie and suggested a core group of him and Cirie and Hissam and who else is that? I've got Ozzy. I think I'm talking Survivor. I can't even remember at this point in time. Probably, I don't know. Yeah, we'll figure out later. But anyway, certainly the key point is this, is that Red seems to kind of have declared that he wants to work with Cirie and the Bye Bye Bees or whoever else she is aligned with. So let's talk about these alliances going forward. On one side, we have the Bye Bye Bees, and I'm just going to call them that. They got a slightly different version. Bye Bye Bees consists of Cirie, Jared, Izzy, Felicia, Hissam, Bowie, and Nicole, or Mimi, as they're calling her. And then now it's looking like Red also. So you got 8 people. On the other side, a little bit more confusing, a little more complicated. It's like an onion because we've got a lot of different layers to this other side. Crowd Control is the name they just came up with for the inner group of Riley and Jag and Blue. Outside that, add on Matt, add on Cameron to make up a 5-member Handful Alliance. And then for the next outer layer, add on Jared, Corey, and America for the Family Style Alliance. I think if you add all of that up, you got 8 folks as well. And then you've got Kirsten, who probably is going home, is not part of either group. That's really building up to a very interesting season of an 8-person alliance versus an 8-person alliance. A younger tending group against an older tending group. Now, someone, I think it's Felicia, that was talking about last night saying, look, we got to be a little careful because all the athletic people are on the other side of this alliance. We need to be winning some of these competitions, and it may be tough with some of them on board. I hope they do well. I hope we see power struggles back and forth, flip-flopping between these two alliances. That's going to make for a great season. So those are the 2 big alliances, and I said yesterday kind of Riley versus Cirie. They aren't officially the leaders, but certainly for right now, it seems like they're calling a lot of the shots. All right, we do have Jared the spy. Jared, they think that Jared is part of the family, what do we call it? The family style level of Riley's alliance. Jared's reporting everything back to Cirie and Felicia and stuff. So Jared told Cirie that if he wins HOH next week, he's thinking he would put up Riley and either Corey or Jag. That's what he'd want to do. First of all, don't count your chickens before they hatch. I know you talk strategy and plans and all of that, but it's so early in the game. I wouldn't be talking a lot of what ifs until it actually happens, just in case there's someone that maybe isn't quite as trustworthy as you thought they were. I'm sure Cirie wouldn't spill the beans, but who knows who else would. But the other thing, at this point in time, why would Jared try to win the HOH? It seems like it would make a lot more sense for Jared to play hard, but as much as I hate throwing HOHs, if he wins HOH, he kind of has to expose his loyalties. If he plays low and doesn't win this thing, he can continue to be a spy. The only main reason I see that he would do it is if he thinks his mom is at risk. By him winning, he makes sure she stays off the block. That's the one motivation for Jared to win this thing. Otherwise, keep on playing the spy game as long as you can, my friend. All right. Jared spent a lot of time talking to Corey. He mentioned that Corey maybe doesn't feel super tight with Riley's alliance. Corey had talked about how he knows he's not one of the inner circle, that he doesn't think there's any way that he and Jared would actually make it to a final 8 with the rest of this group. Corey understands that he's kind of an accessory piece to some degree. And so Jared's reporting that back to Corey. And again, we've already got Izzy trying to capture Corey and bring him over anyway. Now, Corey had suggested during this conversation with Jared that maybe it's not great to blow up Riley's alliance right now because they're probably safe as long as they stay in this alliance. So he's telling Jared, don't do anything to blow it up, right? And Jared said, no, I'm good to go. But they both talked a little bit about what maybe they would do in the future. Corey listened to Jared suggesting that maybe a possible future group could be Corey and Jared and Cirie and Felicia and Izzy. Earlier I said Ozzy. Now I'm sure it's Izzy that was being talked about. Makes sense, right? So Corey, Jared, Cirie, Felicia, and Izzy as a potential group somewhere down the road once you see people from both sides getting picked off a little bit. So we've got that. All right. That is almost the end of it in terms of strategy talk because at 11 o'clock or so Big Brother time last night, the backyard opened up for the first time. I remember my season, man, that backyard opened up. It felt so great to be able to go outside, see the stars again, and just take a breath of fresh air. and just get away from strategy talk and stress for a little bit. Enjoy the fresh air. That's what they did. They all came running out, acting silly and having fun. Some having a little too much fun because Felicia wasn't even outside that long before she fell in the hot tub. We didn't see it on camera yet, but I have a feeling that may be a clip that they captured, but they're saving it for the episode. We did hear Felicia's microphone go bloop, 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 bloop as it went in the water, which is a big no-no on Big Brother. They tell us, if your microphone gets wet, you immediately go in and change that thing out and get a new one. Don't ever try to get it wet on purpose. She won't get in trouble because it wasn't on purpose. But yeah, Felicia fell in the hot tub. She was talking about later that she didn't realize that it dropped a couple of levels. It was kind of deep. Fortunately, she did not get hurt. It's going to make for a fun little blooper moment, I'm sure, on the show. So Felicia fell in the pool, which was pretty funny. We did have one final conversation taking place after the backyard opened up. This is a comic room conversation between Izzy and Sari and Bowie and Red. Felicia came in a little bit later, but she really wasn't involved in the conversation. Izzy, Sari, Bowie, and Red, they're talking about how smart Riley and Jag are, but also they're worried about Corey kind of playing a weasel role. They're worried that Corey is feeding or will be feeding false information to Jared, that he may not be real trustworthy. Well, no, he's on the other alliance, guys. So they're talking about that. Izzy was very pleased with herself that she talked to Corey for a long time and got Corey to spill all kinds of information and such. And she says, yeah, I just sat there and kind of took it all in and all that. But Izzy seems to be maybe pushing to eventually get Corey out because he's a little bit less predictable, right? As much as they think Jag and Riley are smart, they also see some predictability. As long as Riley is opening her mouth and giving every bit of information that she possibly could about the other side, keep her. What a strategy, right? Just hold on to her and let her spill the beans as long as they can. And Corey perhaps to some degree as well. So I don't know what's going to happen yet once we get to the second week. And it doesn't really matter. We got to get through this one first. But we did have that conversation taking place. Finally, all house guests in bed probably, I don't know, by 1 o'clock or so, except for Bowie, who got up in the middle of the night to eat some cereal, a la Matt and all of that. But I think she's maybe still on Australian time. But Bowie's up for a little bit. Hassam got up very early, was doing laundry in the backyard. So we got a couple of folks with slightly different schedules. But for the most part, everyone in bed by 1 o'clock or so. Apparently today is swimsuit day. Everyone goes outside, does their swimsuit shots. They pose for their group shot in the swimming pool and all of that. So because of that, I guess everyone wants to look their best. So everyone called it a little bit of an early evening. Plus, now that the veto competition's been held, until the ceremony on Monday, I think everyone gets a chance to just collect themselves a little bit. There's not any near-term decisions that have to be made. And really, if they all suspect, feel like Kirsten's going home no matter what, there's not a whole, it may be a little bit of a slow week leading up to the eviction itself. Somehow I think there's going to be a lot of scheming going on anyway. And I'll be here for all of it. Guys, y'all have a fantastic Sunday. I know I will. But I will be back tomorrow to give y'all another update, find out what happened inside the Big Brother house. Until then, guys, SKD143. Cheers, my friends. Bye.